For decades, the world has whispered about a secret hidden beneath the sands of Giza. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, predicted a sealed chamber, a hall of records, lying exactly under the right paw of the Sphinx. But while archaeologists remain silent, a 5-year-old boy named Leo just pointed to a photo and asked a question that chilled his mother to the bone. Why did they lock the door to the Library of Light? Today, we dive into a story that might finally confirm what we have all suspected. The history of a lost civilization is waiting to be awakened. Leo did not just talk about a room. He described a descent. He spoke of stairs made of cold glass and a door that does not open with a key, but with a frequency, a tone, a specific sound that makes the stone remember what it is supposed to do. His mother, Sarah, stood frozen in their living room as her kindergarten-age son described architectural impossibilities, with the calm certainty of an engineer reviewing blueprints he had drawn himself. It was a Saturday morning in Portland, Oregon. Sarah had been showing Leo pictures from a coffee table book about ancient wonders of the world. When they reached the page showing the Great Sphinx, Leo stopped her hand on the page. He stared at the photograph for a long moment. Then he pointed to the right paw of the monument, the massive stone limb stretching forward into the sand. "I used to go in there," Leo said quietly. "When the sun hit it a certain way, the door would show itself. You could see the line in the stone." Sarah laughed nervously. "What do you mean, sweetheart? It is just a statue." Leo looked up at her with eyes that seemed far too old for his face. "It is not just a statue, Mama. There are rooms underneath. Rooms they do not want people to find. Rooms with the books that glow." "Tell me more about these rooms," Sarah said carefully. "What do they look like?" Leo closed his eyes as if trying to see something very far away. "You go downstairs," he said. "The stairs are smooth. They feel cold even when it is hot outside. They go down and down, turning like this." He made a spiral motion with his hand. "At the bottom, there is a door. A big door. It does not have a handle. You cannot push it open." He opened his eyes and looked at his mother. "You have to sing to it, a certain note. The priests knew the note. They taught it to the kings. When you sing the right note, the door hums, it vibrates, and then it opens." "What is inside?" Sarah whispered. Leo's small face grew serious. "The library," he said. "The place where they kept the truth. The history of the star teachers. The maps of where they came from. The instructions for building the houses that talk to the sky." He paused. "The first king said it all had to be protected. He said one day people would forget. They would stop believing in the fathers from the stars. They would make up new stories to explain the old things. And when that happened, the truth had to stay hidden. Safe. Until the time came to remember again." Sarah reached for her phone with trembling hands. She did not know who to call. She did not know how to process what her 5-year-old son was telling her. But she knew, with absolute certainty, that Leo was not making this up. He was not repeating something he had seen on television. He was describing something he remembered. Something impossible. Something that should not exist in the mind of a child who had barely started kindergarten. That night, after Leo was asleep, Sarah sat at her laptop and began searching. She typed in phrases like "secret chambers beneath the Sphinx" and "Edgar Cayce Hall of Records" and "acoustic resonance ancient Egypt." What she found made her hands shake even harder. Because other people had described exactly what her son had described. Researchers, psychics, ancient texts. They all spoke of hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx, of records sealed away from human knowledge, of doors that opened not with keys but with sound, with frequency, with the precise vibration that made stone remember its purpose. And her 5-year-old son, who had never studied ancient Egypt, who had never heard of Edgar Cayce, who spent his days playing with toy trucks and watching cartoons, had just described all of it with the casual certainty of someone who had been there, someone who had walked those cold glass stairs, someone who had sung to the door and watched it open, someone who had seen the metal leaves glow blue with forbidden knowledge. Sarah's search that night led her down paths she had never imagined walking. She discovered that her son's impossible memory aligned with predictions made almost a century ago by a man who had never set foot in Egypt, but who claimed to see its secrets with perfect clarity. Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, gave thousands of readings while in a trance state between 1901 and 1945. Among his most persistent visions was a claim about the Great Sphinx of Giza. Cayce stated repeatedly that beneath the right paw of the monument, exactly where Leo had pointed, there existed a sealed chamber, a hall of records, a repository of knowledge from a civilization that predated dynastic Egypt by thousands of years, a civilization Cayce called Atlantis. If Leo's story awakened something in you, I have gathered the essential books on Edgar Cayce, Children Who Remember Past Lives, and the Hidden Technology of Egypt. Click the shopping icon in the video or check below. These are the keys. In a reading given in October of 1933, Cayce described the chamber in striking detail. He spoke of a passage leading from the right paw to a record chamber. He said this chamber contained tablets, records, and artifacts documenting the history of humanity from its earliest origins. He claimed these records would be discovered when the time was right, when humanity had evolved sufficiently to understand and properly use the knowledge contained within. Sarah read these words on her laptop screen and felt her breath catch in her throat. Tablets, records, a passage from the right paw. Her 5-year-old son had described the same things. The metal leaves that glowed blue, the library beneath the paw, the knowledge that had to stay hidden until the right time. But Cayce's predictions were not the only correlation Sarah found. As she dug deeper into her research, she discovered something that made her blood run cold. In 1991, a geophysicist named Thomas Dobecki conducted seismic surveys of the Sphinx enclosure. Using ground-penetrating radar and seismic refraction techniques, Dobecki and his team detected anomalies in the bedrock beneath and around the monument. The data suggested the presence of rectangular cavities, man-made chambers, hollow spaces that should not exist in natural limestone. The most significant anomaly was located directly beneath the front paws of the Sphinx, a large rectangular cavity, exactly where Edgar Cayce had predicted a chamber would be found, exactly where Leo had pointed and said, "I used to go in there." Dobecki's findings were peer-reviewed and published in academic journals. The data was solid. The cavities were real. But here is where the story takes a troubling turn. After the initial surveys, further investigation was blocked. The Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities denied permits for additional research. Requests to excavate or conduct more detailed scans were refused. The anomalies beneath the Sphinx were confirmed, documented, and then essentially ignored by official archaeology. John Anthony West, a researcher who worked with Dobecki on the Sphinx project, later said in interviews that there was clear resistance from authorities to pursue what the radar had found. He suggested that the implications of confirming hidden chambers were too controversial, too threatening to established narratives about Egyptian history. If a hall of records existed beneath the Sphinx, if it contained evidence of a pre-dynastic civilization with advanced knowledge, it would require rewriting everything we thought we knew about the origins of human civilization. Sarah read these accounts and felt a strange mixture of vindication and fear. Her son was not crazy. He was not making things up. He was describing something that sophisticated scientific instruments had detected, something that lay hidden beneath thousands of tons of limestone, waiting, exactly as Leo had said, exactly as Cayce had predicted 70 years before Leo was born. But there was more. Sarah's research uncovered another layer of correlation that seemed impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Leo had mentioned that the door to the chamber opened with sound, with a specific frequency, with singing. This detail, so strange and specific, also aligned with both ancient accounts and modern research. Ancient Egyptian texts frequently describe the power of sound and vibration in sacred architecture. The priests of Egypt were said to possess knowledge of tones that could move stone, open sealed doorways, and activate hidden mechanisms. These accounts were usually dismissed as mythology, metaphor, symbolic language describing something else. But in recent decades, researchers studying the acoustic properties of ancient Egyptian structures have made fascinating discoveries. The king's chamber in the Great Pyramid, for example, has a resonant frequency of approximately 110 Hz. When sound at this frequency is produced inside the chamber, the entire space vibrates. The granite walls hum. The air itself seems to pulse with energy. Some researchers have suggested that this was not accidental, that the chamber was designed deliberately to resonate at specific frequencies. That sound was a technology the ancient Egyptians understood and utilized in ways we are only beginning to rediscover. Could a door open with the right frequency? Could stone be designed to respond to sound? Modern acoustic engineering says yes, absolutely. We use sonic technology today in everything from ultrasonic welders to acoustic levitation. The idea that ancient engineers might have incorporated sound-activated mechanisms into their most sacred structures is not scientifically absurd. It is entirely plausible. Leo had described singing to the door, a certain note that made it hum, that made it vibrate, that made it open. A 5-year-old child in Portland, Oregon, who had never studied acoustic engineering or ancient Egyptian architecture, had described a technology that researchers are only now beginning to understand. Sarah sat in the blue glow of her laptop screen at 3 in the morning, reading about seismic anomalies and acoustic resonance and sealed chambers beneath the Sphinx. She thought about her son sleeping peacefully down the hall. She thought about the calm certainty in his voice when he described the library of light, the metal leaves, the door that sang. And she wondered, if Leo was remembering something real, if he had somehow accessed genuine knowledge of what lay beneath the Sphinx, what did that mean? How was it possible? And what else did he know that he had not yet spoken aloud? In our previous video, we discussed ancient machines that sang. Technologies described in Egyptian texts as devices that used sound and vibration to accomplish tasks that seem magical to modern understanding. Moving massive stones, cutting granite with impossible precision, creating energy from frequencies that resonated with the earth itself. When Leo mentioned the door that opens with singing, he was describing exactly this kind of technology. A door that does not open with physical force, but with the correct acoustic frequency. A lock made not of metal tumblers, but of resonant stone calibrated to respond to specific sound waves. This is not fantasy. This is physics. Everything has a natural resonant frequency. Strike a wine glass with the right tone, and it will shatter. Subject a bridge to wind at its resonant frequency, and it will collapse. Build a chamber from stone blocks cut to precise dimensions, and it will hum when exposed to the right wavelength of sound. Ancient Egyptian architects understood these principles. Their most sacred structures demonstrate acoustic properties that modern engineers struggle to replicate. Dr. Robert Shaw, a geologist who has extensively studied the Sphinx, has noted that the monument sits in an acoustically unusual location. The Sphinx enclosure, the massive pit carved from bedrock that surrounds the monument, creates a natural amplification chamber. Sound produced within the enclosure resonates in unexpected ways. Frequencies bounce off the limestone walls and create standing waves. Harmonics that build and intensify. If you wanted to create a space where sound could be used as a tool, as a key to unlock something hidden, the Sphinx enclosure would be an ideal location. Leo described stairs that feel cold, even when it is hot outside. This detail, seemingly insignificant, is actually quite revealing. In acoustic engineering, temperature affects the speed of sound. Cold materials conduct vibrations differently than warm materials. If the stairs Leo remembered were designed to channel specific frequencies, to guide sound waves down into the earth like a tuning fork, they would need to maintain consistent temperature. They would need to be cool, dense, precisely calibrated. Limestone and granite, the primary materials used in Giza construction, have excellent acoustic properties. Limestone is porous enough to absorb certain frequencies while reflecting others. Granite is so dense that it rings like a bell when struck. The combination of these materials, layered in specific ways, could create acoustic channels, pathways for sound to travel through stone, corridors that amplify certain tones while canceling others. This brings us to the blue light Leo described. The glow, he said, emanated from the metal leaves in the library. This detail connects to something fascinating that researchers have observed in certain types of stone when subjected to mechanical stress or vibration. It is called triboluminescence, the emission of light from crystalline materials when they are compressed, rubbed, or vibrated. Quartz, a mineral abundant in Egyptian granite, exhibits strong triboluminescent properties. When quartz crystals are subjected to pressure or vibration, they emit visible light, often blue or blue-white in color. If the chamber beneath the Sphinx contains granite with high quartz content, and if that granite is subjected to specific acoustic frequencies, it could absolutely produce a blue glow. The light would not be magical. It would be piezoelectric luminescence, a natural phenomenon that occurs when crystalline materials are mechanically stressed. The ancient Egyptians may not have understood the physics in modern terms, but they clearly understood the effect. They built chambers that glowed when activated with sound. They created what appeared to be magic using principles of geology and acoustics. Leo also mentioned that the metal leaves showed moving pictures and words in languages he did not know anymore. This description aligns with something researchers have speculated about for years. If an advanced civilization wanted to store information for thousands of years, what medium would be most durable? Paper decays, digital storage degrades, even stone erodes over time. But thin sheets of metal, particularly gold or alloys resistant to oxidation, could last indefinitely in a sealed, climate-controlled environment. Could information be encoded on metal in a way that produces moving images when activated? Modern technology says yes. Holographic storage, for example, encodes data in interference patterns on photosensitive materials. When illuminated with the correct light source, these patterns produce three-dimensional images. Ancient engineers might have developed similar techniques using different materials. Metal engraved with microscopic patterns, crystalline coatings that respond to specific wavelengths, information storage that activates when exposed to sound vibrations or light at particular frequencies. This would explain why Leo described pictures that move and words that appear when you touch the metal. If the storage medium required activation, physical contact, or acoustic stimulation to display its contents, it would seem magical to someone who did not understand the mechanism. It would seem like the metal itself was alive, showing you things, teaching you things, when in reality, it was a sophisticated information storage system designed by engineers who understood principles we are only now rediscovering. The connection to the video we made about machines that sang becomes even more significant here. In that video, we discussed ancient Egyptian texts describing devices that produced tones, that sang or hummed and accomplished work through vibration. If the Hall of Records is real, if it exists beneath the Sphinx, as Leo and Cayce and the radar surveys all suggest, it may be the ultimate example of this sound-based technology, an entire complex designed to operate through acoustic activation, doors that open with the right frequency, information storage that displays when subjected to specific vibrations, chambers that glow with piezoelectric light when the correct tones are sung within their walls. Sarah, Leo's mother, began researching acoustic archaeology after her son's revelations. She discovered that researchers have documented inexplicable acoustic properties in structures all over the world. Stonehenge in England resonates at frequencies that induce altered states of consciousness. The hypogeum of Halsaflieni in Malta has a resonance chamber where a male voice at 110 Hz creates vibrations you can feel in your bones. The Temple of Kukulkan in Mexico produces echoes that sound like bird calls when you clap at the base of the stairs. Ancient builders incorporated sound into sacred architecture deliberately, consistently, globally. Why? What did they know about sound that we have forgotten? What could they accomplish with acoustic technology that we dismiss as impossible? Leo said the priests knew the note. They taught it to the kings. This suggests a lineage of acoustic knowledge, a tradition passed down through generations of initiates who understood how to use sound to access hidden spaces, to activate dormant technologies, to communicate with something the Egyptians called the Fathers from the stars, beings who, according to Leo, taught the first kings how to build structures that talk to the sky. What if the pyramids themselves are acoustic devices? What if the precise angles, the specific dimensions, the careful choice of materials all serve an acoustic function we have not yet fully understood? The Great Pyramid has shafts that point to specific stars, chambers aligned with celestial events, internal geometry that creates acoustic effects researchers are still mapping. What if it was designed not just as a tomb but as a transmitter, a receiver, a device for communication using frequencies that resonate with something beyond Earth? Leo said the books in the Hall of Records contain maps of where we came from, instructions for building houses that talk to the sky. If those records exist, if they can be accessed, if someone can find the right frequency to sing to the door that has been sealed for thousands of years, we may finally understand what the ancient Egyptians were really trying to tell us, what they built, who taught them, and why they went to such extraordinary lengths to hide the evidence until humanity was ready to find it again. Leo's description of the first king and the star teachers connects to one of the most mysterious concepts in ancient Egyptian mythology. Zep Tepi, the first time. According to Egyptian religious texts, Zep Tepi was an era at the very beginning of history, when gods walked the earth, when divine beings established civilization along the Nile, when knowledge was given to humanity by entities who came from the sky. The ancient Egyptians did not view Zep Tepi as mythology. They viewed it as history, as a literal period of time that occurred before the dynasties we study in textbooks, before the pharaohs we recognize, before the Egypt of stone temples and hieroglyphic inscriptions. The Egyptians believed their civilization was founded by gods, and those gods were not metaphors. They were actual beings, physical entities who descended from the stars and taught humans how to build, how to farm, how to measure time, how to understand the cosmos, The Edfu texts, inscriptions on the walls of the Temple of Horus at Edfu, describe the foundation of Egyptian civilization in remarkable detail. They speak of 7 sages who came to Egypt in the time of Tepi, beings of immense knowledge who established the first sacred sites, who laid the foundations for the temples that would be built thousands of years later. These sages are described as builder gods, entities who possessed knowledge of architecture, astronomy, and engineering far beyond what humans of that era should have understood. The Edfu texts say these builder gods arrived by boat, but the boat is described in ways that do not sound like a typical river vessel. It is called the boat of millions of years, a craft that travels through darkness, a vehicle that moves through the sky. Some researchers interpret these descriptions literally, as accounts of flying craft, ships that came from the stars and landed in Egypt during the deep antiquity of Tepi. Leo said the first king's father came from the sky, that the star teachers arrived before anyone could remember, and chose certain humans to have children with. This is exactly what the Tepi tradition describes, a time when gods and humans intermingled, when hybrid beings were born, when the bloodline of the sky mixed with the bloodline of the earth, and produced rulers who were something more than human, something less than fully divine, intermediaries between two worlds. The Egyptian concept of the pharaoh's divine nature was not symbolic. The texts are explicit. Pharaohs were considered literal descendants of the gods. Their blood carried divinity. Their bodies housed something that ordinary humans did not possess. This is why the pharaoh's person was sacred. Why touching the pharaoh without permission was forbidden. Why the pharaoh's body had to be preserved through mummification. Because the pharaoh was not entirely human. The pharaoh was a bridge between earth and sky, between mortality and something beyond. In many of your comments on previous videos, viewers have mentioned feeling a deep connection to ancient Egypt, a sense of having lived there, of having been part of that world. One commenter, Evelyn Ramirez, wrote that she feels the Egyptian bloodline in her soul, that the history we were taught in school is, in her words, brainwash, that the truth is something deeper, something hidden, something that connects all of us to origins we have forgotten. What if Evelyn is right? What if the bloodline Leo described, the sky blood that got thinner with each generation, is not just a metaphor? What if it is literal? What if all of us carry some fragment of that original mixture, some genetic memory of a time when beings from the stars walked among our ancestors and left their mark in our DNA? Modern genetics has discovered something fascinating. All humans outside of Africa carry DNA from Neanderthals. We are hybrids, the result of interbreeding between Homo sapiens and another species. We accept this now as scientific fact. We are not purely one thing. We are a mixture. If we can be part Neanderthal, carrying genes from a different branch of the human family tree, why is it so hard to imagine that we might also carry something else? Something from further away? Leo described the star teachers as beings who looked different from humans. Taller, with larger eyes, with skin that could not decide what color to be, with the ability to communicate telepathically, to see in darkness, to live for hundreds of years. These descriptions match accounts from cultures all over the world: the Anunnaki of Sumerian texts, the Viracocha of Andean mythology, the Sky People of Native American traditions. Globally, ancient humans described contact with beings who came from the stars, who taught civilization, who interbred with humans, and then departed, leaving behind hybrid offspring and instructions to remember. The Orion correlation is relevant here. In 1994, Robert Bauval and Adrian Gilbert proposed that the three pyramids at Giza are positioned to mirror the three stars of Orion's belt. The alignment is precise. The layout matches the constellation as it appeared in the sky around 10,500 BC. This date is thousands of years before the conventional dating of the pyramids. It suggests that the Giza complex was designed according to a celestial map that predates dynastic Egypt, that it was built, or at least planned, during the era the Egyptians called Tepi, the first time. Orion was profoundly important to the ancient Egyptians. It was associated with Osiris, the god of death and resurrection, the god who, according to myth, came from the stars, ruled Egypt during a golden age, was killed, and then resurrected to become lord of the afterlife. Osiris was not Egyptian. He came from somewhere else. He brought knowledge. He established order. He taught humans how to live. And then he returned to the sky, to Orion, where the Egyptians believed the souls of pharaohs would join him after death. What if Osiris was not a myth? What if he was a memory? A cultural recollection of an actual being who came to Earth during Tepi, established civilization, and then departed, leaving behind instructions to build monuments that point back to his home in the stars? Leo said the books in the Hall of Records contain maps of where we came from. If those records exist, if they document the origins of the star teachers, they may contain coordinates, star charts, information about which system in Orion the builders came from, why they came, what their purpose was, and whether they intend to return. Many of you have written in the comments that you feel something is coming. A shift, a disclosure, a moment when the hidden truth will finally be revealed. You describe dreams of pyramids glowing with light, visions of doors opening beneath the sand, memories that do not belong to this lifetime but feel more real than waking experience. You say your children are different, that they know things they should not know, that they draw pictures of stars and speak languages that do not exist, that they point at ancient monuments and say, "I remember this. This is not random. This is not coincidence." If Leo's memory is real, if children all over the world are accessing the same ancient knowledge, it suggests something profound. It suggests the bloodline is waking up. The sky blood that got thin over thousands of years is remembering what it is, who it came from, what it was meant to do. The Egyptians believed the fathers would return, that Tepi would come again, that the time of the gods walking the earth would be restored when humanity was ready, when we had evolved enough, when we had remembered enough. Leo said the first king told him the fathers are waiting, watching, patient, until the time comes for reunion. What if that time is now? What if the reason children like Leo are remembering is because the door is opening? Not the physical door beneath the Sphinx, though that may open too, but the door in human consciousness, the barrier that has kept us separated from our true origins, the amnesia that made us forget we are children of the stars. If the Hall of Records is opened, if the metal leaves glow blue and show us the maps and the history and the instructions the first king left behind, we will have to confront a truth that changes everything. We are not alone. We have never been alone. Our ancestors knew beings from other worlds. Those beings left us knowledge. They left us bloodlines. They left us structures that point back to their home. And they left us a promise that one day, when we are ready, they will return, or we will find them. And the family separated by thousands of years and unimaginable distance will be reunited. Leo's story is not happening in isolation. Since we began sharing cases of children who remember Egypt, hundreds of you have written to tell us your own experiences, your own children, your own memories. The pattern is undeniable. Something is stirring in the collective consciousness of humanity. Something ancient. Something that has been sleeping for a very long time. A viewer named Marcus wrote, "My daughter is 4 years old. Last week she drew a picture of the Sphinx and said there is a library underneath where the old king hid the truth. She has never seen a documentary about Egypt. She has never heard of Edgar Cayce. But she drew the Sphinx with a door under the right paw. She drew stairs going down. She drew books that glow. I do not know how to explain this. I do not know what it means. But I know she is not making it up." Another viewer, Tasha, shared this. "My son wakes up crying some nights. He says he misses the black dirt. He says he misses the king who was kind. He says the fathers promised to come back, but they have not come yet. He is 5 years old. We live in Chicago. He has never been to Egypt, but he draws pyramids constantly. He arranges his toys in patterns that align with our windows, with specific directions. He says he is waiting for a signal, that when the fathers send the signal, people like him will remember everything." These are not isolated incidents. They are not the products of overactive imaginations or television exposure. They are specific, detailed, consistent memories emerging in children all over the world. Children who have no connection to each other, no shared cultural background, no reason to tell the same story. And yet, they do. They describe the same black soil, the same kind king, the same fathers from the stars, the same promise of return. In the comments on our video about the first pharaoh, Evelyn Ramirez wrote something that resonated with thousands of you. She said, "I have always felt connected to Egypt in a way I cannot explain. When I see images of the pyramids, I do not feel like I am looking at something foreign. I feel like I am looking at home, like my soul knows that place, like I was there once and some part of me never left. The history they teach us is a lie. I know this in my bones. The truth is that we are all connected to something ancient, something they do not want us to remember. But we are remembering anyway. The door is opening. We cannot stop it now. Evelyn is right. The door is opening. Not because archaeologists have decided to excavate beneath the Sphinx. Not because governments have decided to disclose hidden knowledge. The door is opening because children like Leo are remembering. Because people like you are feeling the call. Because the bloodline, thin as it may be, is waking up. Dr. Brian Weiss, a psychiatrist who has spent decades studying past life memories, has documented thousands of cases of children and adults recalling specific details from previous lifetimes. Details that can be verified through historical records. Names of people who lived hundreds of years ago. Locations of buildings that no longer exist. Languages that have not been spoken for millennia. Weiss's research suggests that memory is not confined to a single lifetime, that consciousness carries information across death, that we are not blank slates born into the world, but ancient beings returning again and again, carrying fragments of everything we have ever experienced. If this is true, if memory survives death, then it makes perfect sense that children would remember Egypt, that they would remember being farmers who worked the black soil, that they would remember seeing the first king, that they would remember the fathers from the stars who promised to return. They are not imagining these things. They are accessing actual memories, experiences encoded in consciousness, knowledge that survives the dissolution of the body and travels forward through time until the moment is right to surface again. The books that reveal what they hide from us are tagged in this video. Click the shopping icon. Start reading. Start remembering. Leo's mother, Sarah, has connected with other parents whose children have similar memories. They have formed a small support group, a community of families trying to understand what their children are experiencing, trying to help them integrate impossible memories with ordinary childhood, trying to protect them from ridicule while honoring the truth of what they are saying. In one of their group meetings, a mother named Jennifer shared this. "My son told me that the Hall of Records will open when enough people remember. He said it is not locked with a physical key. It is locked with consciousness, with the collective awareness of humanity. When enough of us remember who we are, where we came from, what we are capable of, the door will recognize us. It will know we are ready, and it will open, not because someone digs it up, but because we call it open with our remembering." This is a profound idea, that the Hall of Records is not waiting for archaeologists with shovels. It is waiting for humanity to evolve, to remember, to reach a threshold of collective consciousness where we are ready to receive the knowledge that has been hidden for thousands of years, the knowledge of our true origins, our connection to the stars, our relationship with beings who came here long ago and left us everything we needed to find our way back to them. If this is true, if the opening of the hall depends on human consciousness rather than physical excavation, then every person who remembers, every child who speaks the truth, every adult who feels the call of ancient Egypt in their soul is contributing to that threshold. We are collectively unlocking the door, together, by remembering, by refusing to forget, by honoring the memories that rise from within and insist on being heard. Leo still draws pictures of the Sphinx. He draws the stairs going down. He draws the metal leaves glowing blue. He draws figures with elongated heads and large eyes, the star teachers, the fathers, the ones who came before. Sarah no longer tries to explain his drawings away. She no longer tells him it is just his imagination. She has learned to honor what he knows, to document it, to share it with others who are experiencing the same thing. Because this is not about one child. This is not about one memory. This is about a species remembering its origins. This is about humanity waking up to a truth that has been hidden in plain sight for thousands of years. We are not what we have been told we are. We are not random products of evolution with no connection to the cosmos. We are children of the stars. We carry the blood, thin as it may be, of beings who came from Orion and taught our ancestors how to build monuments that touch the sky. We carry memories. We carry knowledge. We carry a birthright that has been suppressed, denied, dismissed, but never destroyed. The Hall of Records is real. It waits beneath the right paw of the Sphinx, exactly where Edgar Cayce said it would be, exactly where the radar detected anomalies, exactly where Leo said he used to enter through doors that sang. It waits for the moment when humanity is ready, when we have remembered enough, when we have evolved enough, when we can receive the knowledge it contains without destroying ourselves with it. And that moment is coming. You feel it. Your children feel it. People all over the world are waking up from amnesia that has lasted for millennia. We are remembering the black soil, the kind king, the fathers from the stars, the promises they made before they left. We are remembering who we are, and in that remembering, we are unlocking doors that have been sealed since the first time. If your child has spoken about Egypt, if they have described things they should not know, if they have drawn pyramids or hieroglyphs or figures with elongated heads, please share their story in the comments. You are not alone. Your child is not making it up. They are part of a global awakening, a collective remembering, a return to knowledge that was never truly lost, only hidden, waiting for this exact moment, waiting for us. And now, in children like Leo, in people like you, in the rising tide of remembering that sweeps across the world, the answer is finally being spoken. We hear you. We remember. We are ready. The door can open now. Show us what you have been keeping safe. Show us where we came from. Show us the path home.